Good morning, all. This one is actually Paul's slot in terms of the live streams. I'm going to cover this one just for today, just to give an update, kind of a conclusion, I guess, in terms of what we done yesterday jointly on the stream. We actually took two trades yesterday. We took three trades the day before. As Paul mentioned yesterday, we managed to lose the first two short-term stuff on the crypto side and actually to the pip win everything plus a bit more back on the Aussie dollar trade. So yesterday's trades, I'm going to jump to in a second. But the longs and shorts of that is one was Bitcoin and one was Aussie dollar. So what I'll do is I'll start first of all in terms of the longer term view, and then I'll jump into the actual trades, the outcomes, and potentially then where we kind of think we go in next. So although I'm still doing some shorter term stuff, and I know Paul wanted me to kind of highlight this from what he was saying yesterday, he's really trying to get me to do some shorter term stuff. And yes, I'm playing with it in the background. It's something I haven't done for a very long time, but he said, the emphasis on the equity curve is something that we will start to be looking at a bit deeper in terms of our Discord channel. So yeah, this is basically my last couple of results over the last 4 days worth of trades. I've actually taken 57 scalps on, and this is actually my current equity curve. This is part of the FTMO challenge as well. So obviously so far so good, which is only a couple of days in. So in essence, using these kinds of strategies, we've been taking a couple of the other stuff on, like I said, part of the bigger buyers, bigger picture. I'm still waiting for my main Aussie dollar trade. That's probably going to be my trade of the year this year, in terms of size wise. And therefore, starting off with Bitcoin, I'm going to go long term and then down into the shorter term. So going back all the way to March again, and I'm going to just keep emphasizing this. This is something that I feel quite strongly about. You have to look at where we were, and I regard this as the roadmap. So whether or not we were weekly or monthly, that's still a big question in my mind. You'll actually see this post going back to the 26th of March and the rocket call around the 18th of March, so around this kind of time, where actually I was looking for this move down ABC into a 4, which we actually got. I'm still a bit confused as to this move in here. There's a big question mark sitting in there for me. But ultimately, if we were seeing a move up, my question, and I suppose question from the question mark, is actually whether or not this was a bigger A move up for a B, and we now see a C move down, giving us a slightly deeper 4. It doesn't have to necessarily be deeper in terms of price, but back down to another 4 in terms of where we are, and then ultimately up. Now, I guess my suggestion here is if that is the case, then this might have actually been the monthly 3 here, and we could see this play out for the next couple of weeks realistically to give us some kind of target before we actually go on up. Now, the one reason I guess this is a bit more beneficial, if we were to see this move, we'll have a much greater extension to the upside. However, if this is nested inside the monthly 3, then I get the impression this was the 4. And this was my first gut instinct. I feel that this was only a weekly. So I think if this is a weekly and we are now indeed bullish and we assume this being a move to the upside, then ultimately my biggest concern, as I've expressed on several of my other streams recently, is that we're only looking at a very small target to the upside, because Elliott is fractal. You'd be seeing a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, and a 5. What we're not going to see is a small 1, a deep pullback 2, a relatively decent 3, a pullback 4, which is what we'd assume this would be if we are correct in this. We're not going to get a move that looks something like this in terms of a 5. The 5 is probably going to be capped. It could even be capped the same kind of size as 1, which means, it's very low in the grand scheme of things. So I'm just being realistic in terms of the expectations and managing people's expectations in these levels. Again, something that I've covered over and over and over again in the last 6 weeks or so, especially. Put the emphasis on both scenarios, up and down. You'll see it in the streams. You'll see it in a couple of the different posts that we've put out recently. Um, everything from why we've got scenarios on the private side in terms of the Discord server. This particular one, I've covered both bullish and bearish scenarios and why I think so. If you haven't seen these, it's worth going to check these out in the profile. Now, I think for me, longer term, this is where I think we are at the moment. I think there's still a bullish scenario which will cap just above the all-time high. And if we are bearish, then I think it's something like an ABC question mark sideways, which for me means that this is probably the A. This was likely the B, and therefore coming down for a C. And I'm not going to put any figures or levels in this. There's a couple of interesting levels that I've mentioned in the Discord. But if we were to see that, which I think actually fits quite nicely with the current stochastic play, we've actually got an overbought situation now just kind of stepping out, and therefore a little move down over the next couple of weeks could easily be expected. So that's where we are longer term. Now, covering the shorter term stuff, so I'm going to jump literally from a week, and I can't believe I'm even doing this. We're going from a week to an hour, and on the hour time frame, we just get rid of the stochastic. So on the hour time frame, what I'm actually looking at for this is we're actually seeing a couple of moves from yesterday's call. So Paul, if you watch back to the stream yesterday, I'll put a link into that in the chat and the description on YouTube. So Paul's stream yesterday, we actually took a short trade on, and we'd actually put an order rather than the actual entry in terms of the trade. We're trying to do it to actually not provide signals per se, in terms of just kind of keeping legal. We're looking at this kind of properly, and what we wanted to do was to just kind of hint towards what we were aiming to place and where we were aiming to place them. So not really trade ideas, but just kind of explaining more of what we were actually angling and aiming for. So we were clearly having this move up, and the actual entry that we took was actually at 40, I think it was 43,600 was the actual move. This one here, short position. So we actually got triggered in, which was quite nice. We actually got triggered in at this particular high. So we had, I think it was roughly $1,000 in terms of a stop loss, and we actually had the take profit around 40,600, or 40, might have even been 41,600. But ultimately, we won that trade within a couple of hours, so that was a nice kind of more than 2-to-1 risk reward, and that obviously was automated. So we were away from the screen. We'd realized we'd been tagged in literally to the pip, and we'd actually come down. Yeah, it must have been the 41.6, because when we looked at the trade, it was almost pip to pip perfect in terms of the level. So we were literally in at 12 yesterday my time, and we were out at 7 last night on that particular move. So that was a nice little trade in terms of Bitcoin. There's nothing really that I'm seeing at the moment in terms of the short-term stuff, so I'm going to avoid this one for today. Paul's obviously away as well, so I'm not actually going to take anything on the Bitcoin move today. And then literally we're going to jump across to Aussie dollar. So on the Aussie dollar move, we took the day before, which was a nice win the day before. We actually took a long on this bounce. So this is the first trade that we took. We actually took a long on this one, and we were taking that. I can't remember the exact numbers on the first one, but it was something like 25 to 35 pips. So we ultimately took this one long with a relatively small stop loss because it was short the time frame. So that was kind of trade one, and that was the first one that we won in terms of the streams and putting this into FTMO, etc., etc. And then yesterday, we actually had another call, which we actually went a little bit heavier on. I'm more of a fan of FX. So we actually went a bit heavier yesterday, and we actually got in this particular trade around the 7-8 level. So this level, we had a 95 stop loss, which was something like this. There we go, roughly there. And the trade down, we were actually looking at around the 50 mark. So that was the second trade yesterday, another 2-for-1. But like I said, we actually went a bit heavier in terms of the risk. So I think this was out at a 1.5 risk rather than a 1% risk, and actually took that trade down again. So again, 2 out of 2 in terms of Aussie dollar. Very useful trades. I know that's covered a decent whack of the FTMO challenge in only a couple of days. So yeah, so far so good. So they're the things that I really wanted to cover, just to kind of finish it off for Paul, if I'm honest. And obviously we'll be doing some more trades once he returns from his holiday. So I think I'm going to leave it like that for now. There's nothing else that I'm looking at the moment. I'm going to take the afternoon out. I'm off to play some golf, and from there, obviously Paul's away, so we will see you next week for Paul's regular streams, and I'll probably stream on the next big swing for Bitcoin myself personally. So enjoy the rest of the week, guys, and we'll see you on the next stream. Thanks for watching.